Speaking, singing, questioning, rising. Wake up with Rise and Shine 6 till 9. Peter and Asanda as they bring you breaking news, sharp analysis, and the voices that shape the day. At mid-morning, we get on the move with Palisa and Benjamin, digging into the African lifestyle, people, and the things that make Africa smile. 12 till 1, Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, getting in-depth, powerful stories, and the perspective you won't hear anywhere else. The Upside, 1 till 4, live and real, with Tepuho Likweleni and Nompumelelo Ngubeni. Tame Ngubeni talks money, Africa in business, 4 till 5 p.m. 5 till 6, we put on a little bit more color. Vue d'Afrique with Joël Moteba. We go to East and Central Africa and find Darubinia Africa with I Am Shakif. Madapiri gives us some life. Zochitika, 7 till 8 p.m. Maria Mokumalo comes in 8 till 9. We get some useful knowledge. Kalodiscopia. 9 till 10. We take a look in Africa and beyond. Africa World Hour.
It is midday and this is Africa Update coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on Channel Africa Radio from an African perspective. I'm Lulu Gaboo. I'm in studio with Onele Nzinzi, Msibudi Makura and Buntle Headbush. Coming up in this hour. The funeral service of Zambia's former president...
President Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to prolong this war. He wanted a protracted war.
And U.S. President Donald Trump annoyed with both Israel and Iran. But first up, the news with Onele Nzinzi and our sports headlines with Msibudi Makura.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu, and greetings to our listeners. The Elders Group has recalled South Africa's struggle icon Nelson Mandela's advocacy for dialogue as they call for global respect for the rule of law amid ongoing tension in the Middle East and elsewhere. The group of prominent leaders say U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran are illegal and send a dangerous message about the normalization that might come over the rule of law. They say the strikes cannot be justified as legitimate self-defense in terms of the UN Charter. Spokesperson for the Elders, William French.
The Elders are deeply concerned at the long-term implications of these illegal actions on the security of the Middle East, but also on global respect for the rule of law. Diplomacy continues to offer the best way to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon and to de-escalate tensions across the region. The Elders always recall the words of their founder, Nelson Mandela, "The best weapon is to sit down and talk."
NATO leaders are set to sign up to a new spending target of 5% of the nation's GDP on defence. The gathering enters its second day today, the BBC's Nick Bick reports.
Donald Trump's first NATO summit of his second term has been anxiously anticipated by some allies for some time. European partners failing to pay their way on defence has been a recurring and irksome theme for the president. But keeping President Trump sweet has come at a cost for Ukraine's President Zelensky, who has been invited to The Hague but won't take part in the main meeting, and discussions for a new Russia strategy have been dropped. Despite protestations from some members, notably Spain, the 32 leaders are set to sign up to the new spending target, although expect the language to be elastic and the time frame vague.
South Africa will today host the third G20 Sharepass meeting in Sun City in the Northwest Province. It is expecting to bring to the fore a number of challenges that are facing the globe. This comes as the world has been on tenterhooks following a ceasefire in the war between Iran and Israel. International Relations and Cooperation's Ambassador Xolisa Mabungu says the U.S. will not be part of this meeting.
For this week, the United States has confirmed to us that they will not be present in the meeting, but they have not foreclosed the possibility of continuing beyond this meeting this week. So we are open-minded about it. we are looking forward to further interactions with them. So we do interact with the United States indeed, because they do have a Sherpa for the G20, they have a sous Sherpa for the G20. So in a way, they are aware of what is happening under our presidency.
The Zambian government has filed a lawsuit against the family of the late former Zambian President Edgar Lungu, seeking to stop his burial in South Africa today. The government argues that no burial should take place until disputes surrounding the former leader's final resting place are resolved. Bonolo Maribe reports.
Several of Edgar Lungu's family members, alongside the funeral service company holding his remains, are named in the lawsuit filed by Zambia's Attorney General, Lulu Gaboo. Gaboo says that the former president should be buried in Zambia with full military honors, in line with Zambian law and traditions. He argues that state funerals are national events governed by strict protocols and that the public must take priority over personal wishes.
Lastly, a new study suggests that progress in vaccinating children against the number of life-threatening diseases has stalled or even gone backwards in the last 2 decades. Experts warn that millions of children are being left vulnerable to preventable diseases such as polio, TB and measles. The BBC's Dominic Hughes.
Since 1974, more than 4 billion children have been vaccinated, preventing more than 150 million deaths worldwide. But progress has stagnated, with wide variations in vaccine coverage. A study in the Lancet Medical Journal says measles vaccinations have declined in nearly half of 200-plus countries. The COVID-19 pandemic made things even worse. By 2023, nearly 16 million children had not had any childhood vaccinations, most of them in sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia.
Channel Africa News, I am Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, Mamelodi Sundowns eye history as Group H at the FIFA Club World Cup reaches a boiling point, and the countdown has begun. It's officially 10 days to go to the Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament kick-off in Morocco. Details of these and other stories coming up at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, thank you to Onele Nzinzi with our news update and Msibudi Makura with our sports headlines. It is 12:06 Central African Time and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, on OpenView channel 628 and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app available on the Apple and Google Play stores. And join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any questions that or any stories rather that you'd like us to focus on and give an update on, you can send us your stories at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +2711 714 4459. Now today on hashtag Africa Update asks, Tanzania is evacuating its citizens from Israel and Iran. Is the country you're in doing the same thing? So wherever you are, has your government decided to evacuate its citizens in Israel and Iran, or even in the Middle East? Let us know what you are finding out from your government and what the governments have decided across the globe or across the African continent. Let us know your thoughts on all our social media platforms. It is 12:08 Central African Time.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Now we go into our top story, which is part of where our question comes from, basically, with the crisis in Iran and Israel. Tanzania has begun evacuating its citizens from both countries as tensions escalate in the Middle East, with nearly 150 nationals already repatriated. Now, the government says it's prioritizing the safety of Tanzanians abroad through coordinated diplomatic efforts. Daniel Kijo has more.
Tanzania says it has successfully brought home 147 of its 663 registered citizens from conflict zones in Iran and Israel. Following direct orders from President Samia Suluhu Hassan to protect Tanzanian nationals abroad, 42 individuals have been evacuated from Israel and 105 from Iran, with more flights anticipated in the coming days. Deputy Foreign Minister Dennis Londo says the government is working through its embassies in Tel Aviv, Ankara, Kuwait, Cairo and Abu Dhabi to ensure safe passage. Immigration officials report that the majority of evacuees were student and migrant workers. Tanzania's embassy in Tel Aviv is still on high alert, with approximately 50 additional citizens seeking immediate repatriation. While no Tanzanian casualties have been reported, the government continues urging all nationals in conflict areas to register with embassies for assistance. Tanzania officials stress that the nation's dedication to resolving conflicts peacefully and safeguarding its citizens overseas. Daniel Kijo, Dar es Salaam.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Now, the Zambian government has filed an urgent case in a South African court on the eve of the funeral of its former president, Edgar Lungu. Zambia's Attorney General has requested that the court halt the burial until the dispute is resolved. Now, the Lungu family says the funeral will go ahead as planned. Our reporter, Sisi Sekhalo, is at the funeral. Sisi, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update. Now, what exactly is happening? Is the funeral going ahead? What have you heard? You are there, and what is the family saying?
Good afternoon, Lulu, and good afternoon, listeners. You are indeed correct. I am here at the Cathedral of Christ the King Church in Johannesburg. I can tell you, Lulu, that the church is filled to capacity. It started slowly in the morning. It looked like there was nothing was going to happen, but we see now the church is filled to capacity. There are mourners here. Among the mourners is the president of the Patriotic Front, which is the party that the late President Dr. Lungu belonged to, and we did engage with him on the what has been playing out in the media. The conflict between the Lungu family and the Zambian government, and he didn't want to be drawn. He said we must wait for the family. But Lulu, the ceremony was supposed to start at 10 already, and the family and the former first lady were expected by 10:30. But we are here. We are still waiting. There is no word on what's going to happen. It's just the singing and people are in church, but we haven't had anything as to whether the funeral will go ahead or not. The family is not here yet.
Now, we are reporting, and the reports have been going out that the Zambian Attorney General would be requesting the courts in South Africa to halt the burial until the dispute is resolved. Are there any murmurs in the church or on the ground with regards to the court case?
Lulu, we are not hearing anything from, we are here with the media from the country itself, and we haven't heard anything as to whether the funeral will go ahead or not. As I said, the funeral is not here, so there's not really anybody to ask whether the funeral will go ahead. What we can do is just wait and, hear perhaps from the court what is happening that side.
Now, if we go back a few years back, where the founding president of Zambia, Kenneth Kaunda, his family had wanted him to be laid to rest next to his wife. Well, the president, the late former president, Kenneth Kaunda. But government went ahead and buried him at Embassy Memorial Park in Lusaka. Is this something the Lungu family would have taken into consideration when deciding to bury the former Zambian president Edgar Lungu in South Africa? Or are we missing exactly what's going on with regards to the dispute and cases that some of the late former president's family are going through or are currently dealing with in Zambia?
Oh, Lulu, what I can say is that from what we've been hearing from the families that there was conflict, and that has been widely reported between the late president and the current president of Zambia. And according to the family, he said that he did not want the president to be at his funeral, and that has really been the crux of the matter. The Zambian government and the family, the Lungu family, agreeing whether the current president of Zambia is going to be at the funeral, and I think that has been the crux of the matter. And we know, Lulu, there has been conflict when the late Zambian president was supposed to be repatriated, and it did not happen. And subsequently, the family decided, no, they are coming to bury him in South Africa. So hopefully, Lulu, as the day progresses, we'll be able to get the family. We have requested to speak to them so that perhaps you can get clarity, when you speak to them, get clarity of what really has been happening.
Well, Sisi, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today.
Thank you, Lulu.
That's our reporter, Sisi Sekhalo, who is attending the funeral service of Zambia's former president, Edgar Lungu. The funeral has not started. There is no family there at the church, and this is something that we will obviously be following up on as the day progresses on Channel Africa. It is 15 after 12 Central African time.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine, weekdays 6 till 9.
In recent weeks, East Africa has seen a disturbing rise in human rights violations. In Kenya, digital activist Rose Njeri was arrested under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act after creating a tool for citizens to oppose the Finance Bill 2025. Meanwhile, in Tanzania, Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan lawyer Agatha Atuhaire reported being detained, tortured, and sexually assaulted by security officers.
East Africa needs a reset. We need to get back East Africa to where the founding fathers are. When President Nyerere and his colleagues Jomo Kenyatta and the Ugandan counterparts fought for independence, they fought for independence to get Africans out of poverty, to get Africans out of slavery. The leaders who took up power have since gotten into regression.
Neto Agostino, co-leader of the United Green Movement Party.
Mornings made better with Peter and Asanda on Rise and Shine. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Our global leaders have welcomed the ceasefire between Iran and Israel after both sides and U.S. President Donald Trump announced a halt in hostilities. An uneasy calm has now returned in the Middle East. Now, Trump has appealed to both sides not to violate a ceasefire. Our senior research fellow and director at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Thembisa Fagute, weighs in on the relationship between the U.S. President Donald Trump and Israel's President Benjamin Netanyahu.
He was visibly upset because President Benjamin Netanyahu wanted to prolong this war. He wanted a protracted war. And Donald Trump stopped him in his tracks in terms of going on Sunday morning and bombing those 3 nuclear facilities in Iran. And when we woke up, we were all told that mission was accomplished. He wants to continue this genocide in Gaza, so divert attention to Iran, a new target. Number 2 is he wants to continue kicking the can down the road because he knows that when the dust settles, he's likely to face jail time in Israel because of not only the violations that occurred and the blame game that has started, particularly from the Israeli society, that he was sleeping on the job when the events of October the 7th occurred. But he knows that his political career is largely dependent on him staying in power. So he will do whatever it takes to have protracted wars in the region. We know that when he started with this, he said he was intent or intended to suppress the proliferation of nuclear arsenal weapons in Iran. He went on to say he wants to suppress the military capability of Iran. And the third objective he came up with was that he wanted a regime change. So this was the man who was definitely had all intentions to continue with the war and to drag this as long as he could. Israel has been giving a blank check, but we've seen over the past couple of months more and more countries recognizing the state of Palestine. And at the same time, Israeli, at least Benjamin Netanyahu's relationship with Donald Trump has hit a very serious situation. And now he can't really continue with what he intended to do. So we are in a situation now where Benjamin Netanyahu is isolated. We've seen what Donald Trump has done in the past in terms of continuing to negotiate with the Iranians, continuing to negotiate with Hamas without Benjamin Netanyahu. He also went on to negotiate with the Houthis in Yemen, agreeing that the Houthis were not going to attack the ships or U.S. ships that were going to go on the transporting goods on the Red Sea. But importantly, he went on to shake the hand of Ahmed al-Sharaa, who's the president of Syria. All of this was outside the consent and consensus between the United States or Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. So Benjamin Netanyahu is likely to be isolated after this, and I think Israel is going to move towards isolating him as well. But I'm not sure whether that will still be the case, given that the war against Iran was very popular within Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu is now, of course, thinking of calling for a snap election because he understands his popularity at the moment.
That was Senior Research Fellow and Director at Africa-Asia Dialogues, Tembisa Fagute. It is
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
It is 20 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Protests have erupted in parts of Kenya with police firing tear gas at protesters. The protests are in honor of those killed in huge anti-tax demonstrations a year ago. Schools and businesses have been closed, and police have warned against attempts to access the State House and Parliament. And for more on the latest, we are joined on the line by our correspondent in Kenya. That's Alex Kiari. Alex, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. How are you and everybody? And to speak right now, Lulu, we just received a communication from Kenya's communications regulator, the Communication Authority of Kenya, which has ordered for the end of all live broadcasts for the ongoing protests in the country. And they are citing this as saying that it is a security threat, and contrary to Article 33, Section 1 of the Kenyan Constitution, which allows them that chance to do that. But as we speak right now, the president of the Kenya Editors Guild is on air protesting this move because, as she says, the right to protest and to broadcast is also enshrined in the Kenyan Constitution. And as long as media houses are paying the statutory dues to the CAK, they are therefore allowed to broadcast without any interference. And this comes in the wake of widespread protests that have been happening all over the country. It began at around 9 a.m. this morning in Nairobi and have been spreading all over the country, with almost 10 districts now being seen to be taken to the streets, protesting against what they are terming as police brutality and extrajudicial killings, together with the abductions that have been happening in the country. In the county, in the county of Nakuru, protesters overwhelmed police officers and commandeered a police truck. And here in Nairobi, a police officer has been cornered by protesters and badly injured. She's been taken to the hospital for treatment.
Now, Alex, with regards to now this, obviously, President Ruto ordering police to secure the nation and protect lives, including the lives of citizens in general. Are citizens not concerned that they could face the full might of the law? Because clearly now, if this is now the live broadcast has been stopped, it means something more is coming. What are you hearing on the ground?
Actually, the reason why the media is protesting is simply because it's feeling like the the halting of live broadcast will therefore ensure that the cover up for any kind of violations was going to happen without the glare without the glare of the media. So this is the reason why they're protesting. But it's also good to mention that the protests have been largely peaceful in many parts of the country, and the violence just started after the police lobbed tear gas canisters at the protesters who had gathered outside the central police station and along the streets in Nairobi, who just wanted to go and lay wreaths at the scene of police killings last year. So we can easily and authoritatively indicate that protests have been largely peaceful, and violence just happened when the police provoked the protesters.
Now, opposition leaders were seen laying wreaths outside Parliament. Tell us more about this and what they have to say about, the peaceful protests. And now, with the broadcast not being live, nobody can really see and tell exactly what's happening on the ground.
Actually, the media houses seem to have defied this directive, and the broadcasts are still on. And this comes a few hours after opposition leaders first had held a service at a local Catholic church before laying wreaths outside Parliament, which still was a very peaceful process. And later on, when they tried to do the same outside the central police station where blogger Albert Ojwang was killed, that is when the police responded with tear gas canisters. But all in all, they were calling for the government to ensure that they tame the police killings and also ensure that everybody or any suspect who is arrested does not end up dead in any police custody, rather be taken through the judicial processes as stipulated in the Constitution of Kenya.
Now, Alex, very quickly, just in wrapping up, we are getting reports that 10 people have been hospitalized. Tell us about those.
Yes, it could be more, but that's the number that we have for now. But it is also imperative to also mention that journalists have also been targeted in these attacks. One of them is from a local media house called Citizen TV, whose helmet was ruptured by a police canister. And then another one who works for the Standard Group was also injured by stones, and this is being blamed on hired gangs who have been brought on board to counter the protesters. But all in all, this number could spike in the coming hours, since the morning hours saw mostly elderly people taking to the streets, and now we are seeing more younger people now joining them as the day goes by. And definitely we will be monitoring to know the exact number of protesters who have been injured or killed. But this is the preliminary number of 10, but it could be more.
Does this not also highlight the issues that journalists face on the ground in Kenya when it comes to freedom of expression?
Exactly, Lulu. And the most interesting thing is that the journalists are being singled out as enemies of the state just because of highlighting the excesses and what is going on the ground as far as the protests are concerned, and also highlighting all issues that seem to be aggravating the government, especially matters to do with corruption, the culture of impunity, and the fact that the media, even in the run-up to these protests, have been running look-back features on the protests that happened last year, in which Parliament was breached, and we know very well that a number of people were killed inside the Parliament, but we have never known exactly the number, and actually very few media houses have been allowed access into the areas that were attacked and burned by protesters last year. So it is a very interesting situation, because the Constitution of Kenya grants and allows media to work freely, and there has been a lot of gains in terms of media freedoms in the country, and the fact that journalists are being targeted in this definitely highlights the rollback in gains as far as media freedom is concerned, and therefore a reason to be concerned. Remember that a journalist also in Nakuru today was also badly injured by a police bullet, and we are following up to know exactly her situation and what happened. Lulu.
And now with the peaceful protests and everything that's happening on the ground currently, what is in terms of the leaders, opposition leaders, what are they saying to the marchers who've decided to go into the streets and show their support in remembrance of the people who lost their lives last year?
Actually, the most interesting thing, Lulu, is that the protesters don't seem to be interested in the support of opposition leaders, because to them, they are part of the bigger problem in the country. However, this is the reason why the opposition leaders held their own parallel event of laying the wreaths and also holding a service. But protesters have the backing of opposition leaders, but they are doing this thing as their own initiative without having to be financed or relying on the politicians for support. So it is more of an organic uprising, and how the opposition leaders are going to feed into this remains to be seen. But so far, right now, the independence of protesters from politicians is very much pronounced.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today.
Thank you very much.
That's our correspondent in Kenya, Alex Kiari, joining us on the line. It is 29 after 12 Central African time.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Our news headlines up next with Onele Nzinti.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Media houses have now been barred from covering protests currently underway in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. The protests are in honor of those killed in huge anti-tax demonstrations a year ago. The vice president of the Patriotic Front, a party which late Zambian President Dr. Edgar Lungu belonged to, Given Lubinda, has refused to be drawn into the dispute surrounding the late former president's burial. While the funeral ceremony was supposed to have started already in South Africa, the Zambian government has launched a public interest lawsuit against Lungu's family, seeking to stop his burial. And President Donald Trump has insisted U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities were devastating. This after a leaked U.S. intelligence report suggesting the country's nuclear program was only set back by a few months. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinti.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Onele. We say good afternoon to Msibudi Makura with our sports update.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. A very good afternoon from the sports desk. Well, it's all to play for in Group F of the FIFA Club World Cup as teams head into the final round matches with 2 spots still up for grabs. So with Ulsan already eliminated, Borussia Dortmund, Fluminense as well as Mamelodi Sundowns remain in contention in a race that's going down to the wire. So here are the permutations ahead of tonight's matches that kick off at 9 p.m. Central African time. So Sundowns will qualify as the winners of this group if they defeat Fluminense and Borussia Dortmund fail to beat Ulsan. Sundowns will also qualify as the runner-ups in this group if they defeat Fluminense and Borussia Dortmund beats Ulsan. Meanwhile, the South American side Fluminense will qualify as the winners of this group if they defeat Mamelodi Sundowns tonight and Borussia Dortmund fail to beat Ulsan HD, while they draw with Mamelodi Sundowns and Borussia Dortmund fail to beat Ulsan. They defeat Sundowns today and Borussia beat Ulsan, then Fluminense will finish above Dortmund on the overall goal difference, or if equal on that goal difference, the overall number of goals scored will then determine which of the two sides will go into the last round of 16 at the FIFA Club World Cup. On to athletics news now. Jamaican track icon Shirley Ann Fraser-Pryce will compete in her final national championships when they kick off this week. The 3 times Olympic gold medalist say winding down one of athletics' most decorated careers. Now the 10 times world gold medalist previously did announce that her comeback to track would be for 2025 in what was also widely expected to be her final year of competition, saying she has unfinished business. The 38-year-old told reporters on Monday that the Jamaican National Championships that start on Thursday will be her last. The qualifying event for this year's World Athletics Championships in Tokyo that run from the 12th until the 21st of September comes after a disappointing final at the Games, at the Paris Olympic Games, when she missed out on her 100-meter semi-final after sustaining an injury in that semi-final last year. Meanwhile, world indoor champion Prudence Sekgodiso of South Africa improved her personal best as she won the women's 800-meter at the Golden Spike meet in Ostrava in the Czech Republic on Tuesday night. Sekgodiso led from start, not counting on the two pacemakers, to win that race in 1 minute 57.16 seconds to a meet record that was also 0.1 second lower than her previous best time that she set last year. The South African middle-distance queen was also in control after the second pacemaker dropped out of the back straight and never looked in trouble as she stayed comfortably in front of her training partner Oratile Norway of Botswana, as well as Negeset Gitachew of Ethiopia, who was runner-up at the World Indoor Championships. So Norway overhauled Gitachew in the sprint for the line to take second place in 1 minute 57.49 seconds, which was a national record in Botswana, while the East African finished in a time of 1 minute 58.02 seconds in third position. On to rugby news now. Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has included 4 uncapped players in his squad to face off with the Barbarians in an unofficial match in Cape Town in South Africa's Western Cape province on Saturday. Flanker Vincent Chituga, as well as tight head prop Asinati Ntlabakanye, will start, while hooker Maras van der Merwe, as well as another tight head Neethling Forshire, are uncapped replacement on the bench. Siya Kolisi will captain the side that includes 9 World Cup winners in the starting 15. Erasmus says he needs sober as well as experienced heads ahead of this match against the Barbarians, which can also help in the Barbarians' style of play.
No, but it's when it's not going so well that we need those steady hands in between, and if you got a Barbarian team which will come to entertain, sometimes you need just a little bit control in the game, and because in those key positions, tight head, 5 looks experience, but 9, 10, 15. We just felt it's calculated in the sense that there's some calm heads in between and off the bench.
There are also further 5 World Cup gold winners on the bench, which sees a conservative 5-3 split between the forwards as well as the backs. It's not an ideal state of affairs for the uncapped player chasing a first Test cap, which won't happen against the Barbarians, but Vincent Chituga will take what he can get as he also aims to soak up the atmosphere of the ball game.
I have no doubt that there'll be a crowd and they'll be loud, and it will be an atmosphere that will be hard to forget. And I think for me, it's trying to put that aside and actually focus on bring the best foot forward for my game this weekend, because it's, as much as it isn't an official test, an opportunity for me at this level, and it's as close as a bite as I can get outside of that. So for me, it's everything. It's honestly everything, and I'm excited. I'm very excited for the game.
For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibu Di Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Este é o Caleidoscópio de Canal África, com Remo Samo e João Yabalá.
O surto da cólera em Angola tem causado grande preocupação, afetando já mais de metade das províncias do país. Simultaneamente, a Agência dos Estados Unidos para o Desenvolvimento Internacional, USAID, um dos maiores doadores mundiais de assistência humanitária, decidiu não priorizar os países com maior incidência de malária. Para discutirmos as causas do alastramento da cólera em Angola e os impactos dessa decisão da USAID, convidamos o Dr. Jeremias Agostinho, médico e mestre em saúde saúde pública para partilhar a sua visão sobre o tema.
A doença, nesse momento, representa o maior risco de saúde pública que nós temos. Nos últimos anos, a nossa preocupação esteve sempre centrado com os casos de malária, os casos de tuberculose e também de infecção por VIH-Sida. A forma como, em pouco menos de 2 meses, os casos de cólera vêm aumentando, acaba por representar, nessa altura, um dos maiores desafios que o país tem. É expectável que, nesta fase, o número de casos venha a aumentar.
De segunda a sexta-feira, das 20 às 21 horas locais, este é o Caleidoscópio do Canal África.
Well, thank you to Msibuni Makura with our sports update, and we say good afternoon to Buntle Headbush with our business news.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Thanks, Lulu. Good afternoon, and a very good afternoon to our listeners. In our top story this afternoon, as the United Nations marks 80 years of existence, UN G20 Sherpa Nelson Mufa says the G20 is making meaningful strides to ensure multilateralism remains effective and inclusive, particularly for global trade and cooperation, amid rising geopolitical tensions and a surge in protectionism. He made these remarks at the third G20 Sherpas meeting, currently underway in the Northwest Province in South Africa.
Certainly, there is a positive momentum with regards to reinforcing multilateral cooperation at a time when it is very much needed as the UN celebrates 80 years of existence. And the G20 presidency under South Africa is contributing positively to this notion of reinforced solidarity around sustainable development and equality.
The 7th Africa Youth and Tourism Innovation Summit is underway in Johannesburg, South Africa, bringing together young entrepreneurs, industry experts, and government officials from across the continent. Speaking on behalf of South Africa's Tourism Minister, Patricia de Lille, Dr. Sipho Ngomane from the Department of Tourism highlighted the urgent need to rethink the role of tourism in addressing youth unemployment.
Youth unemployment remains one of the greatest challenges facing the continent. And while tourism has immense potential to generate jobs, access remains uneven, particularly for our young people. That is why we must reimagine tourism, not just as a leisure industry, but as a strategic platform for innovation, skills development, digital transformation, and inclusive entrepreneurship.
The co-founder and CEO of Time Group in South Africa, Conrad Jonker, says the proposed increase in Home Affairs data verification prices is unsustainable for financial institutions. The department's identity verification fees are set to increase from 15 South African cents to $0.56 per individual real-time data verification as of the 1st of July. In an open letter addressed to the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Leon Jonker raises concerns about the increasing, saying the move will undermine digital transformation, financial inclusion, and access to banking services for millions of South Africans, especially the poor. Jonker says they are not opposed to the cost recovery measures.
So it's not actually the cost of the lookup. What the minister is saying is that the government has not renewed or refreshed or upgraded the infrastructure for many, many years. And what they want to do is they want to charge us for the upgrading of the infrastructure. This system is down half the time, and that's an unacceptably poor service level. But infrastructure like this is actually a public utility that the government should be providing. Although we are not in principle opposed to a fee increase, that fee increase should be at a level that is sustainable, that is affordable.
The top U.S. diplomat for Africa, Troy Fertrell, has dismissed allegations of unfair U.S. trade practices and says this funding delays would not derail a key railway project connecting Angola, Zambia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. On Monday, the African Union officials questioned how Africa could deepen trade ties with the United States under what they called abusive tariff proposals and tightening visa conditions, largely targeting travelers from Africa. Ayanda Mkwanazi reports.
During a press conference at the US-Africa Business Summit in Luanda, Ambassador Troy Fittrell said that the US consulate continues issuing visas regularly, although some now come with shorter validity periods due to concerns over overstays. Several African business and political leaders have raised concerns about a sharp drop in visa approvals, particularly for travelers from West Africa, since late 2023. Washington's tariff plans have also added to cooling diplomatic ties with African countries, as some economies, including Lesotho and Madagascar, warned that even a baseline 10% levy could threaten critical exports such as apparel and minerals.
Cocoa farmers in the world's second biggest producer, Ghana, are expecting a bumper harvest for the upcoming 2025-26 season. The West African country has seen output fall in previous seasons due to reasons including diseases, climate change, and rampant illegal gold mining, which destroys cocoa plantations and reduces yields. However, the growers are cautiously optimistic about the next season. Tracy Bumgard has more.
A cocoa farmer and vice president of a National Farmers Association, Theophilus Tamaklu, says they are witnessing a significant improvement compared to last year in terms of flowers, pods and leaf health. Tamaklu is projecting an increase from 230 bags of cocoa last season to 350 bags for the upcoming harvest, but warns that excessive rainfall and a lack of timely fungicide distribution from Ghana's cocoa regulator, COCOBOD, could undermine yields.
Now for a look at our indicators this afternoon, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 547. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 28. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 57. In Zambia, 23 kwacha 20. The BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 rial 49. Russia, 78 rubles 44. India, it's 86 rupees 3. China, 7 yuan 17, and South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 74 cents. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Looking at commodities this afternoon, gold is trading at $3,327 and platinum at $1,298 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $67.67 a barrel. And those are your business news at this hour. I'll be back with more in the next hour. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Headbush.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, thank you to Buntle Headbush with our business news. It is 12:45 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The Carbon Trust is one of the speakers at the London Climate Action Week currently underway in the United Kingdom. A series of clean energy initiatives are being unveiled. Now, the UK Special Representative for Climate, Rachel Kite, highlighted the economic, health and environmental benefits of UK-African innovation collaborations. And to tell us more, we are joined on the line by the spokesperson, Lily Beadle of Z-Gen, lead at the Carbon Trust. Lily, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Hello, yes. Happy to
Okay,
join.
great. I was just going to check if you're with us. How are you doing?
Yes, very good, thank you.
All right, great. Now, Lily, tell us about this Climate Action Week and who is involved.
So London Climate Action Week is, there's over 700 events happening this week, and people will be discussing everything climate from across different supply chains. And a lot of the events are focused on UK energy, but there's a ton focusing on decarbonising supply chains, on international energy markets too. The UK's got an increasingly strong expertise and interest in climate, and there's a ton of investment that's looking to put money to climate. So it's been a good week of talks.
Now, there are a number of projects spanning multiple countries, including Cote d'Ivoire, Fiji, Malawi, South Africa, Uganda, and Nigeria. Tell us more about these projects and the importance of having these projects.
Absolutely. So the Carbon Trust has a whole breadth of work on energy. One of the things that we're looking at is this issue of unreliable grids. There's something like 1.5 billion people that have chronic unreliable access. And so we're asking the question, what can distributed renewable energy do? Because, in those instances, people turn to fossil fuel generators, the small petrol ones, the large diesel ones, and they've plugged a needed energy gap, but they're bad for health, socially and economically. Something like 800,000 premature deaths a year are attributed to their use. They're on average more expensive than the grid, and they're carbon-intensive forms of energy. So we're asking the question: what can we do about that? We've been investing in all sorts of different renewable energy projects. One such example is in South Africa. We're funding Stellar Energy in partnership with Resilience Energy South Africa and Rhizome Energy to deliver energy to healthcare clinics. It's a kind of renewable energy kind of hybrid mix and storage project to support health clinics in townships in Cape Town. And there's a ton happening across the portfolio. But what we're trying to do is demonstrate that this renewable energy can step in at a competitive cost price and provide electricity where it's needed.
Now, emerging economies account for around 15% of global clean energy investment. Therefore, is it really that important for these countries to go clean? And would it not be more cost effective for them to continue using fossil fuel that is readily available to them?
So first of all, on that 15% needs to be higher. I think that there's a ton of opportunity, and where the greatest demand growth is going to be is in emerging economies. So the international community needs to come up with a way of moving more investment into these markets. I think it's totally fair that nations ask that question. Why not use the resources that you've got available, in particular in settings where, if you are, that haven't been the kind of main cause of emissions? The fact is that the economics have shifted, that actually in most of these settings, renewable energy is now cost competitive, and actually the cheapest form of energy. Solar and wind costs have fallen 70 to 80% over the past decade. And they're readily available, so these supply chains are building. So I think it's now beyond a kind of a collective effort to try and protect the kind of people and planet. It makes business sense.
Well, Lily, how long is this going to be running for? It's a week, and what are you hoping to come out from this Climate Action Week? And just the interested parties, especially people who are going to be there on the ground, what will they walk away from this week of speakers and talk shops? And how do we ensure that the deliverables are met?
I hope that people come away with a real sense that there's commitments been made. So it's a great opportunity to talk through some of the challenges that we're facing across various different aspects of decarbonisation and what to do about it. As I mentioned, there's a ton of investment that does want to move into climate. As I said, it's becoming more, it is the thing that makes most economic sense in a lot of places. So, I think we want to see funding commitments being made. We want to see partnerships being made and, progress being made where there are challenges.
Well, Lily, thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. Cheers.
That's the spokesperson, Lily Beadle of Z-Gen Lead at the Carbon Trust, and she was joining me on the line. It is 12:51 Central African time, and there is some breaking news with regards to Zambia's former late President Edgar Lungu. A court has halted Lungu's burial, and seemingly that there is agreement between the parties involved. And we go to our reporter who is on the ground at the funeral at the church. Sisi, you're back on the line with us. Give us an update of exactly what has unfolded. And I saw visuals of the family seemingly entering the cathedral. What's happening there on the ground?
Good afternoon, Lulu, again, and to the listeners. Yes, indeed, Lulu, the family is here. The former First Lady, Esther Lungu, is here. She came in with family members just about 20 minutes ago. They are in the church, and we have been told that the ceremony is starting. It looks like it will start. That's what we know for now.
And have they not spoken of what the court has decided with regards to halting the former late President Edgar Lungu's burial? Are they not aware of what's happening? Is it a possibility?
No, not at the moment. No word from, at least from the church, Lulu. We haven't heard anything. I just stepped outside. I'm not sure what is happening now, but we have been told that the ceremony will start. As we are, around with the other media organizations, we've been told that the ceremony will start, and no word as to the court case that the ceremony has been halted. At least for now, we do not know, but the family is inside the church. Perhaps there will be an announcement, but it hasn't been made. I'm not sure at the time when I stepped out if there has been any announcement.
Well, Cici, I'm just trying to make up what we're seeing on the SABC News channel. I'm not sure whether that is a coffin there where the priests are, busy with their incense in the church. What exactly, can you give us a visual of, in terms of just a visualization of what is happening? I know you're outside, but is the former late president's coffin in the church?
Lulu, when I stepped out, it wasn't there as yet. I will go back and just find out. But as I was inside, it was not there. It was just the family, and yes.
Right. Okay, Cici, thank you so much for joining us once again. That's our reporter on the ground who is attending the funeral service of Zambia's former president, Edgar Lungu. We have breaking news that the court is halting Lungu's burial. Earlier, it was stated that this is according to the agreement of both parties. But as you heard, Cici is on the ground at the church, and we're not sure exactly what is unfolding. But we do see the priest in the church seemingly continuing with some kind of service. So we're yet to hear exactly what is happening there. But the breaking news is that the court has halted Lungu's burial. Whether it will go through or will happen or not, we are yet to see. It is 12:54 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
As we continue with normal programming, we go to Kiev, where the battle against Russia in Kiev is on a diplomatic push to win friends in Africa, sending nearly 300,000 metric tons of food aid to the continent under the Grain for Ukraine initiative. Reuters' Zachary Goulman has more on that story. All right, we will not do that story as it is an important one, but we will focus on other stories as we continue with programming. You're listening to Africa Update.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Can you hear us? Mondli?
All right, we say good afternoon to Tebogo Kuleni, who is out somewhere, and he'll give us an update on what's coming up on the upside today, where exactly he is.
Hi, Lulu. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm good, thank you. You know, when there's breaking news unfolding stories, we always get very excited here in studio. So it's a very exciting time news-wise. And you tell us where exactly you are and how you're doing.
I tell you what, it is exciting to be hearing the breaking news, and we'll be delving into that in a moment's time. I'll do it off air with you. But for now, we are coming to you live from the Wondrous Club in Johannesburg, South Africa, for this year's Radio Broadcasters Convention Center Africa 2025. It's the 6th edition. We are talking about how AI, the digital space, and radio are coming together to bring an experience that we've never seen before. AI is here. and we cannot lose sight of the fact that we need to adapt to how the world is creating content, the legal side of creating content using AI, and how the community is involved when we are now transitioning in this new era. And then later on in the conversations, we'll be getting into conversation with LV's Drift Wine Ambassador. They've appointed a new wine ambassador that will be in the first hour, and then we continue the conversation how AI is transforming the media space. And then our wind down this afternoon, we are joined by Jason Goliath, who is bringing the Happiness Economy Tour back. They're reflecting on how happiness, how joy, how sadness, how trauma can be used to bring people healing in a comedic style, and that will be our wind down this afternoon. An exciting show lined up, and as always, we've got What Caught Your Eye with my producer Nombuiselo Tango. So that's all coming up on the upside, coming to you live from the Bull Ring. Actually, I should be saying we're coming from the Bull Ring, where that famous 4-3-8 game was held between South Africa and Australia. So it's an exciting time for radio broadcasting, and we'll be talking all about it this afternoon.
Thank you to Tebogo Lekuleni of The Upside, and he will be taking over at the top of the hour, and with all of that happening, a lot of excitement in this time. And we say thank you to our producer Tracy Boomgard and technical operator Mondli Mtambo. Our social media, Elaine Bengani. It's been a very interesting one, a very exciting one, and as we know, we always cover news coming in at whatever speed. Thank you for joining us, and continue with us on our social media platforms. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.